Here's a guide to the final paper. So over 16 slides, I'll offer a guide, a general guide, and some tips for how to write your final paper. This first slide comes from the syllabus, and I've just added at the end, or other appropriate unit of analysis. So it's an integrative paper, as it says. It's meant to integrate the theories and insights you've gained and help you in your prospective dissertation topic or other appropriate unit of analysis. So you'd like to be able to choose your unit of analysis. The standard unit is your dissertation topic, as I say, but you're not mandated to use that. So please don't feel that you're constrained to use your dissertation topic. I only use this as a standard in order to be helpful. If you've already chosen it, you're sure about it, then any work that you do to build on it will be beneficial to you. But again, you can choose another unit of analysis, such as what appears on this slide. It could be your topic, it could be your field of practice, like a psychology practice or a consulting practice. It could be a discipline, like let's say it's built on your communications discipline, or it's built on your financial management discipline. It could be a company or organization, or an industry, or a community. The last two bullet points are the biggest ones, like sector, like private sector, public sector, or even the country. Now, some of you in your in your reading reports, you say Philippines or Philippines Inc. You could choose that or any of these. So whenever I mention the word study in this deck, it always refers to your unit of analysis. Note that there's a trade-off between scale and focus. The smaller your unit of analysis, the more focused it would be. But at the expense of synthesis, how could it be applied towards a broader understanding of leadership? For example, if you choose your own company or a company, so it's almost like a case study of that company, very focused. But then you'll have to strive to write about how this could be applied to a larger unit of analysis. So one way to do that would be you can write about your organization, and then you might pose questions about, or even write about, partly when you write about your organization, you could include the consideration of the industry. So you could write about the school, but then again, in your writing, you could also include, oh, this is what's happening in schools in the Philippines, and this is what I will see will happen. So there's a way to broaden it. The second bullet point, the bigger your unit of analysis, the more variables. For example, if you want to do the whole Philippines, that's ambitious. So in one way, that's good. You just have to account for more variables. And of course, it's going to be less focused. So pros and cons. So it's up to you to choose the right trade-offs. You've seen this diagram at the start of each module, and the directionality of the diagram is important. They're meant to link one after the other. The integration of all of these four modules and the concepts in these four modules are supposed to be interrelated. So integration is what we're after here. So just keep in mind, how do you always integrate and synthesize in your paper? So a suggested outline, number one, of course, describe your unit of analysis and why you've chosen that. Number two, in your lit review of relevant readings from the course, how could you use some of these readings to build into your study context reading, leadership of strategy, leadership of innovation, and leadership of change? And then you have your integration and synthesis, research questions number four, and possible method for answering these research questions. So integration and synthesis I combine into one part of the outline. So let me just explain further. How could you integrate? You could think about the model, you could derive a framework, you could summarize it into a set of principles. You're trying to integrate the four modules and weave them into your study. How could you synthesize? Of course, having this framework, now having this model or set of principles, how do you now build that towards somewhat of a contribution to the general study of leadership? So remember, synthesis is like 1 plus 1 equals 3. By putting these things together, by integrating them, how could you then synthesize it towards a contribution towards leadership? We're going to use the rubric that we've been using for your reading reports and your discussion leadership. We'll use the same one, of course. To be consistent, we'll use the same one for your final paper. So I've talked at length about interpreting and expounding. You can still see that in my feedback slides. I've sent out 2 now. You can see them in the appendix. So make sure that when you interpret, you're fastidious about the theoretical framework. You're interpreting it correctly. And expounding, you're deriving deeper meaning from the critical concepts in the article. So many of the ways in which many of the papers didn't match the rubric was in these first 2. Expand, of course, outside of the set readings. What other learning, what other reading could you bring in? And some of you do this as a matter of course. Some of you do this quite naturally. When I've mentioned in your paper that you've expanded well, then I've pointed out to you that you've done it well. And in some papers, I pointed out that perhaps it's in need of greater expansion. Again, integrating your insights into a coherent whole, either a framework, a set of principles, a model of sorts, just integrating. So reflection. Some of you are quite generous in your reflection, and I make it a point to tell you when you are, to reinforce that. Some of you at first were reluctant to be reflecting based on your own experience, based on your own mindset, your own biases, we can call it that, your own worldview. Okay? Just how do you reflect upon it using your own lens? So how would you stimulate critical thinking of a concept, or relating each concept to another or to each other, and stimulate synthetic thinking towards, again, a more integrated and deeper discussion of leadership? I've gone at length about scientist and practitioner. We're practitioners when we talk about our experience, and then how do we relate that to the science? Or we're scientists, there's the theory, how can we relate that to the practice? So always going back and forth using these 2 lenses. What's the format? So just standard 12-point. In fact, let's make it uniform. Let's say 12-point times New Roman. Double-spaced. APA style. Some of you are already writing in APA style. Some of you are not yet writing in APA style. So just get the hang of it, just to give you more practice in it. So let's just say APA style. So that means, I think most importantly, how do you quote? How do you paraphrase? How do you attribute? And then build in a references page. I think if you focus on those things I just mentioned, it goes a long way towards getting the hang of writing in APA style. I'm usually wary of giving a word count because you write differently. But in the interest of giving a more specific guide, from previous batches, the best papers have clocked in at 2,000 words or more. Okay, so anything that's smaller than 2,000, you'll have to be very concise in your writing to gather all of your all the things that you want to be able to convey. So you could see that as a minimum, 2,000. There's no maximum, of course, but there's a law of diminishing returns. So if you're going, let's say, way beyond 5,000, that's going to be a bit long. So within that range, depending on your writing style, I think is what you'd like to target. We did set July 31 as our new submission. Always by email, please, to my email. And I always try to confirm receipt. If I haven't confirmed receipt within a day, try to send it again just to double confirm. So thank you. And of course, enjoy the process. As I always say, enjoy writing your paper. Thanks.